reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network. MMO Reporter's PAX 2012 coverage is brought to you by Guild Launch. Slay more dragons with Guild Launch.
So one of the defining characteristics of Raiders is its sort of classless progression system. So when you do your character creation, you'll choose a base job. And this is the skill tree right here. You'll choose a base job, and these are the 4 different base jobs: Defender, Berserker, Cleric, Sorcerer. And if you've ever played an MMO, you know what those are, right? The Defender is like the tank, Berserker is DPS, Cleric, healer, so on. But what Raiders gives you the ability to do is learn any of the skills from any of the classes. So you'll choose one base one when you create the character, and you'll stick to that one for the first 10 levels. And then once you hit level 10, all the different ones will be open up to you for you to be able to learn. And you'll get a new skill point every time you level, and you can put it into whatever you want. So you can create these really cool hybrids. So you can have like a Berserker Cleric hybrid that does like a lot of DPS damage but can also heal. Or you can have a Defender Sorcerer, which is can take a lot of tank damage, but can also do long distance magic, like magic elemental damage and attacks like that. So we're really giving players the ability to open up and to refine their character specifically to their playstyle and to their wants and what they want to accomplish. It's really cool because we emphasize party-based gameplay. So you get these parties that have a really wide range of skills, and they're all able to support each other really effectively. Because you'll have a guy that you don't have to just like spam chat and say like LFG tank over and over again. Because chances are someone that you're with is going to have these tanking abilities, or they're going to have the healing abilities that you can use. Now the thing about skills is that they're weapon-based. So each character can have 2 different weapon sets equipped at any one time, and you cycle through them a tab. So this one has the big 2-handed sword, which is the Berserker weapon, and the 2-handed mace, which is a Berserker or Cleric weapon. So all the skills are weapon-based, meaning that even though you can learn them all, you have to have the appropriate weapon. So as I'm tabbing through, you can see some of these down here deactivated, some are activated with this weapon. I go to the next one, and they're all activated because all of those skills are compatible with that weapon right there. And that becomes a common theme. You're always picking up new weapons, and your status is always changing. Your skill bar is always going to change, and that's how the gameplay stays fresh. Is that I'll give you an example in a second of enemies. You pick up their weapons. You can use it for a short amount of time. There's all these auxiliary weapons you can use, and your skill sets and your abilities are always changing. For example, one new thing is the cannon. Right, so you can equip yourself a cannon. Your skill tray has changed, so you have the the new cannon skills. Of course, there's only one.
Oh.
Sorry. They had to be done.
It was coming right for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So there's the cannon. There's these new enemies up here, these kobold poachers, which we'll go look at. They have these sort of like little rocket launcher guns, and it's really cool because there's no archer class in the game right now, other than like the sorcerer does some range damage, but there's a lot of melee. So when we see these guys, and they have their they have their little rocket launcher guns. If you kill them, there's a chance that they'll actually drop it, like he dropped his right there. You can run over it and pick it up, and you can start using it. And again, your skill bar has changed. You now have the skills that are applicable to that weapon, and you have it for a short duration of time. You can see up here for exactly how long you have it. So in this new area is these kobold poachers. They're the ones that have these guns. There's like a cemetery area that has skeleton archers, and you can pick up their bow and arrow. Sometimes some guys you'll hit the skeleton specifically, it'll knock their skull off, and you can pick it up and throw it like a grenade and do a ton of damage with it. So again, the emphasis is always on keeping the gameplay fresh by always changing your current state. You're not even after you create your character, you're not just locked into the one class that we sort of. It's not like we preset a predefined path for you. Now you're just achieving that. You're actually building your own character out, so it becomes yours and it becomes very unique to you. Now, a few other things that are new, they're going to be available in the open beta that weren't before, and they're also very good examples of some of the things we're talking about. Is the transformation system. So through questing and through looting, you can get these transformation crystals, and they'll give you the ability to transform into some of the world monsters that you'll see. So, for example, we'll transform into this guy. He's a little bonbon warrior that you have seen earlier in the game. And he has his own weapon, his own skill set right there, and of course you can use all those. Some taunts. Different things you can do, and these can be anywhere from like these little monsters like this. You can become like bigger sort of mid-boss type of guys. Very early in the game, one thing you do, I don't know if you remember, is you obtain the spirit of the elder, and you become that like that really big like mystical creature or whatever that does a ton of damage, and you need him to actually kill the boss. My favorite one is the bunny. Sad because I just killed that one. But of course you can turn into the bunny. He has his little attack. It really does any damage, but it's there. Best part about it. This little dance you can do. Oh, this is a good shot.
Nope. It's rabbit season.
I did not like that, yeah.
That'd be great if it was PvP. You go up and you see this little bunny sitting around, you take a shot at it and realize it's actually a person.
It's actually a person. We should do BVB combat. Be the first one to ever have it. So you saw the transformation system. There's about 8 to 10 different types of creatures that you can transform into. Use their weapons, use their skill sets. Now, another thing that's cool that we actually showed it at PAX before, but I want to mention it again, is the music system. So you can equip a guitar, and you see your skill tray down here has changed again. And you have little notes. If you play the right note combination, you actually get a buff for your character. So you can sit around with your party, you guys can play the notes, you can collectively get buffs from it, and you'll do this like before you go and try to fight a boss, or before you go in an instance. You can rock out a little bit. And of course, if you happen to get attacked, use it as a weapon as well. Now, if you see what happened there, use it as the weapon. He did it, yeah, he hit with it, does a lot of damage, but it immediately went back to my primary weapon. Now, one thing a goal we have for Raiders is to make it a very seamless experience. Seamless between switching, in regards to switching between weapons, swapping out your skills, getting on and off your mount. We don't want people to get bogged down in the menus, and we don't want people like living in the UI. You know, we want to keep them in the fight as much as possible, keep them progressing through the game and engaged in the game while they're going throughout the whole thing. So that's why we can do things like bind all these items to our skill tray. We can transform quickly. Once that runs out of time, it automatically comes back. If we get it on our mount, oops, I moved. Is a good example of this sort of seamless type of transitions. So we're on our mount. Mounts are normally used, you know, for long distance travel, but they can attack as well. You got hit. But see, I had hit with the mount, and immediately took me off of it and gave me a defense buff. So if you happen to be traveling, you know, for a long distance, and you come across an enemy, you can attack with the mount. I'm getting banged up real quick. Hold on. Oh my god. Ew, wrong button, sorry. Right, so you're running, you can attack with your mount, deal a bunch of damage, it automatically dismounts you and gives you a defense buff, which you have up there for 15 seconds. So again, we don't want people to have to, like, you know, if they get into danger, to have to manually get off their mount or re-equip a weapon. It automatically does it, and it gives you the defense boost at the same time to kind of keep you safe for a few seconds while you can, to either let you escape or to, you know, give you a little bit better chance in the fight. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
Oh, no, it's fine. It's day 3. I think it's expected from most people.
Man, I know. So a little bit about where we are right now. We're at the Grand Wall of Silence. When you start the game, you first spawn here at Broken Mass. This is where you get your first quest and intro to the game. And you start questing through all of this. Right now, this Grand Wall of Silence is not available in the closed beta. In the closed beta, the last place you could ever reach was Makat Village. So now all this is open up to you. Grand Wall of Silence is like the end content of what will be in the open beta, for at least the current state of the open beta. we'll show you the area, what it's all about. So this is the Grand Wall of Silence. You guys familiar with Game of Thrones, right? You know, the wall. And similar concept here. But what happened here is that there's this big meteor crashed into the kingdom, and is called the Prime Stone. And after it crashed, all this evil started spreading out throughout the land. And that's what you're questing towards. You're questing towards this, and you're finally here to find out why this is happening and try and push it back on the other side of the wall. And this boss right here, this is the final boss, called the Chimera. He's sort of an amalgamation of all the different bosses that you've encountered up until now. He has all the attacks, flying attacks, fire, these sort of melee swipe attacks. He can lift you and slam you to the ground. And I'll probably die because he's meant to be attacked as part of a group because he's really, really tough. Because he has this big horn right there, kind of the source of his power and also his weak spot. So if you can deal damage to it, if you can deal enough damage to it, you can actually break it off.
Turn into a bunny.
Yeah, it's run away. So we're level 25 right now, and that's when you first get into this area. You wouldn't really encounter that boss until you're about level 30 something. So we're slightly underpowered in terms of where we'd be as far as quest and story progression, but you can still see how much more intense the boss fights are as opposed to like the little fights. You know, those are what we want players to really, when they get into a boss fight, we want just to ratchet up the intensity and really make them feel like they're doing something much bigger and much grander. You encounter a lot of these bosses while you're questing through, and a lot of them, you know, they range in size, they range in attack and speed, but that's sort of the cornerstone of Raiders gameplay, is fighting these bosses. Of course, you have your hero menu that has all your equipment, gear, everything you have, all your stats, has your faction status or different factions in the game, more information on all the skills that you've learned. Skill tree we went over a little bit. You can learn all the skills from all the different classes. Whatever the transformation system, the guitar, the mounts. And again, everything that we just saw today is all open beta content. We ended the closed beta last week to prepare for it. Now we're gathering all the feedback and all the data and making the necessary tweaks that we're going to have to finally release the open beta. We saw a lot of positive signs in the closed beta, things like players stuck around for a long time, meaning that most of the people that had logged in at the beginning of the beta were still logging in at the end of it, which is cool because we had to, the servers were just getting slammed. We had a lot more people than we thought we were going to. So we had to cut it down so the servers would only be open while we're at work so we could monitor a little better, which is like, it's like a good problem to have, you know, but it was still a problem. But even with the servers down being half the day every day, players were still continually coming back and logging in, so they stayed excited about the game, which is that's difficult to do with free-to-play games, especially during closed betas when they know that all their character information is going to get wiped. But they stayed, so it was really, really cool.
Are there a lot of like big group open bosses like this, or do they?
Yes, there are. There are probably, I think there are 12 total right now. There's at least 1 or 2 in each area. And and everything is like in the open world, right? So
Okay.
so bosses.
You mean literally everything? Like there aren't dungeons in the traditional
There are
sense?
dungeons.
Okay.
There are instance dungeons.
Okay.
But the majority of the gameplay and the questing takes place in the open world. You know, it's kind of a shire-based system where you can't walk from Broken Mass and take this trail all the way around. It's like you'll go to the end of Broken Mass and you'll kind of instance to the next one. So each of these little areas is like its own confined space, but you're still out in the open world. You're not in like an instance dungeon. You'll still see everybody else out there. So there's this feast system right here that gives you the ability to make this little food station. And you can make it anywhere as long as you have the inventory item. There are 3 different types. There's this is kind of the salad buffet. There's a meat one that's like a pig on a spit, and there's a stew which is like a big cauldron. Now what these are for is that you make it and then you hit eat and you can grab an item and it'll provide you with some piece of food. Now to eat the food, it'll give you a buff. So you can see the buff up here. This one increases your health and energy by 20% for a full hour. Now what's cool about this is that anyone in your party can come use this. If you have a party like of 8 people, you can set this up before you go after a big boss or in an instance or something, in a dungeon. You can all consume the food and you'll all get the buff. If other people in your party have other ones, all the buffs stack. They're all different, so you can make your entire party more powerful by working together. And of course, it wouldn't be Raiders if you couldn't hit someone with it. So you use it as weapons as well, just in case you get attacked.
And even after that, it's still that.
Yeah, exactly.
Preservatives.
So that is, as far as the new content, that's pretty much it. The increased level cap, the new dungeon, the new area, the Grand Wall of Silence, these new enemies that you can knock their weapons out of their hands and use it against them, the big Chimera boss. These are all things that haven't been released yet, but will be available in the open beta. We haven't actually announced an open beta date yet, but it'll be this year, sometime within the next couple months. Got a lot of feedback. I was living in the forums during the closed beta. A lot of really, really good feedback and good ideas. We look at a lot of data, things like as far as like balance, like are they progressing like they should? The challenge is that when we open it up to players so much and we give them so much freedom to make their own character, they still have to be powerful enough to compete at these high levels. So if someone is putting, salting all of their skill points among all the different classes, they're never going to really be strong enough to get that high level. So we sort of have to make sure that they know what they should be doing and what they should be looking for. Because people, as soon as it gets too grindy or if it gets tedious, they'll easily just quit the game. So we're looking at boss balance, like are they dying too much? Or are they not dying enough? Is it challenging enough? A lot of really good data we got from the closed beta, which will all be incorporated into the open beta. So you'll still see some Korean right there, because this is like the latest level content. It hasn't been fully localized. That's kind of how fresh it is. We just got it on our servers a few weeks before the show. All the transformation systems brand new, all the different creatures that you can become. The goal is to keep the game from getting boring fast. I think Raiders is really successful with giving these other types of systems, these other incentives to party, incentives to group, and to be in your guild, to really kind of keep the gameplay fresh, along with the action style combat. We're really happy, looking forward to the open beta. So.
And once again, I am at the Perfect World meeting space with Mark, senior producer for Raiders. Mark, it's great to see you again after PAX East. Lots of changes to the game since then.
Absolutely. It's good to see you again. Thanks for coming back. We have we're looking forward to the Raiders open beta now, so everything we're showing here is brand new content, never before playable, so I'm glad you got a chance to see it.
Yeah, I got to poke around in the closed beta a little bit, and that was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Lots of changes coming up with the open beta. You're opening up a whole new space and increasing the level cap that players can play to in the open beta.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. The closed beta level cap was 25. In the open beta, we're not 100% on it yet, but it'll be 30 to 35, probably around 35. That's going to give you access to the Grand Wall of Silence, which is sort of the final area of the whole kingdom of Rendell that you're in. In that area, you'll see the Chimera boss. You'll see all these new minions. Of course, you'll continually acquire your skills because you get skill points at each level. It just really sort of expands on the game and makes it even much bigger than it already was in the closed beta.
Now, taking such an inspiration from the Monster Hunter style of games that you do, how are you going to try to balance the desire of the different playstyles from people who like to do maybe the instance content that your game offers versus the world bosses?
It's a good question. So that's actually one of the things that we're focusing on right now, that the closed beta is over, and gathering the data, seeing how players are reacting to the game and to the different systems in the game, and to make sure everyone is having fun with what they want to do, right? So there's a lot of different things. There's the dungeons, the instances, there's the open world, the boss combat, there's PvP. So we're really trying to focus on expand on those systems, and different types of players like different things, you know. So so we're sending out surveys to players to see what they liked, what they didn't like, what we can improve upon. So you'll probably see a lot of those changes if you played in the closed beta. You'll see some really cool updates in the open beta.
Awesome. So talking about the closed beta, what was the most surprising thing that a player did that really you guys weren't expecting, and that that you weren't quite sure what to do with?
Man, there was I'm sure you know, MMO players, some of them are hardcore,
yeah,
and they'll just burn through the game, right? So we had people hitting the level cap much sooner than we thought we were going to, which was cool because that gave us a lot of information on balancing the game and finding the spots that where we might need to make it more challenging. We may need to add some more quests, to adjust EXP gain levels and things like that. So just with the quickness and the way, it was only very few people, but how fast they got to the level cap was surprising to see.
So with the closed beta again, you were looking at the way in which the class system works, and the way you can spread your points out on one or several of the different classes that are there. What are some of the ways that you're working on making sure that people don't build themselves a broken character that is just not going to keep pace with everybody else in the world?
That's actually a big concern with me personally, is that, and we talked about this a few minutes ago, that when we give the players so much freedom to spec out their character and they can learn all these different skills, there's always the risk of them spreading themselves too thin, and then when they get to a certain level, they're underpowered, right? And they can't fight these bosses, so they can't complete these quests. So we're adding a lot of prompts in the game to make sure that players know that, hey, you either have a skill point, you know, to go giving suggestions on what they should do with it, building out our webpage a lot to give a lot of information to players. So if they're not sure what they need to do, we're going to provide them the resources, just so people aren't just sort of arbitrarily adding them and having underpowered characters. And it's a big concern, and we're definitely working on it.
Awesome. Well, I'm really looking forward to the open beta. That's coming up soon, and I can't wait. I was playing a Berserker, really enjoying that. I think you were mentioning that you were playing a Berserker when we talked at PAX East, if I remember right. Is that still your favorite choice? I do a hybrid defender sorcerer now, because the defender takes a lot of tank damage, and the sorcerer has like a lot of the long range, the elemental magic, and I kind of like the dichotomy between those characters. So that's what I do. I also one character I work on is just like a pure build Berserker, and it just does a lot of damage. It feels really good. Yeah,
so
it's a lot of fun to walk around with those big weapons and just lay waste to everything and hit them in the face.
Absolutely, but don't forget about the cleric too, because healing in this game is extremely important. So clerics will have a lot to do.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, and can't wait for the open beta.
Very good. I hope to see you guys in it. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you in the